Thank you very much for joining us here on Sky News this afternoon. Disturbing events in France and Tunisia this afternoon. Perhaps first of all you can give us your thoughts on what's been happening in France.
Well, I think actually what's been happening in France is connected to what's happened in Tunisia and also elsewhere. Maajid Nawaz, who's an ISIS ideologue, has been promising for a few weeks now that in the holy month of Ramadan, ISIS will step up their attacks to mark the one-year anniversary of the founding of their so-called caliphate. And so it appears to be at the moment a coordinated attack by ISIS on soft targets across the world. The Shia mosque in Kuwait, the attack on the factory in France, and the attack on the hotel in Tunisia, which has now apparently mounted to 27 casualties there. And the reason ISIS could be planning these soft target attacks is because actually in their stronghold in Iraq and Syria, they are on the defensive, and they need to demonstrate to mark this one-year anniversary that they're still relevant, that they're still operationally capable. And they need to attract other fighters to their cause to keep morale high, and that's what's going on here apparently. It seems that's the case.
The sentiment in France, obviously everybody cast their mind back to January and the Charlie Hebdo terror attack, but there has been what you could describe as a drip feed of attacks since then. What is the mood in France like at the moment when it comes to terror?
Well, of course, in France, people are highly alarmed. I mean, this is the first decapitation on French soil. We haven't had one in Britain. We had an almost decapitation with drummer Lee Rigby. So people are shocked, they're alarmed, but I think there are some questions that we need answers to. One is that the perpetrators here, were they homegrown French citizens? Were they returning fighters? Or has ISIS delivered on its promise and smuggled, via the people smugglers, smuggled hardened ISIS operatives with people across from Libya into the continent of Europe? And that begs another question, which is that these apparent multiple attacks, are there others that they're waiting to initiate again in this month of Ramadan? I mean, I'm frankly very surprised. I look at these issues every day. I'm very surprised that we in the United Kingdom haven't yet faced something as severe. We're very lucky, and credit does go to our security services and to the police forces to keeping us safe, but we are overdue an attack here too.
Maajid, I just want to get your thoughts now on the situation in Tunisia, which is evolving. An attack on a tourist area there in Sousse. We're hearing at least 27 killed there. We're presuming the majority of them tourists. Certainly the Interior Ministry there saying a large number there are foreigners. We're just waiting confirmation of their identities and if any Brits were involved. But in terms of this style of attack in Tunisia on holiday makers, what are your thoughts on that?
I think Tunisia here as a target is natural for ISIS, even though, interestingly, ISIS doesn't have a stronghold in Tunisia. It has it next door in Libya. But the reason it's an easy target for ISIS is because the largest percentage of foreign fighters that have gone to join ISIS have actually come from Tunisia. They've gone to Iraq and Syria. There's a huge contingent of them in Libya, in ISIS-controlled territory in Libya next door. So they have an abundance of Tunisians who know their country well, who speak in the dialect, the Tunisian Arabic dialect, who are able to strike in Tunisia. And of course they're very angry with the Tunisian government because it's the one post-Arab uprising government that managed a successful transition from a post-Islamist government to a secular government, and so they're not in power in Tunisia, and that's why they have an abundance of fighters going looking outwards and joining ISIS outside of the country, which makes it easier for them to send people back in. And unfortunately, there could well be British and other Western tourists, as well as other innocent civilians from anywhere else who've been caught up in this what appears to be a massacre in the hotel.
It begs the question, what can be done to prevent this kind of attack? When you see two gunmen firing indiscriminately on the beach, there is a heightened police presence in Tunisia since the attack on that museum some months ago. There is a heightened security presence around the tourist hotels. But if two people take it upon themselves to fire with a machine gun, what can be done to keep people safe?
Well, apart from short-term stopgaps, and it's almost impossible to secure every soft target in any country. Charlie Hebdo was a publishing house. There's a factory now in France, and that was a hotel in Tunisia. So apart from the short-term stopgaps and attempting to prevent such attacks, the police and security services are doing a good job and they're trying their hardest there. I think the only solution is a long-term one. We are dealing with a global jihadist insurgency. We have to recognize that there are ideological underpinnings to these attacks. Yes, there are other grievances. There are socio-economic factors too. There's anger. There's underemployment. But importantly also, there's an ideological insurgency that feeds off all of that. And that ideology needs to be discredited. And I'm looking forward to the UK government publishing a strategy on this year, because we need to start looking at that ideology and really undermining it. It needs to become as unattractive as Soviet communism has become today. And that's a decade's work ahead of us there.